The hand we're going to show you today features Mustapha Kanit, a guy who's really fun to watch, but probably not that fun to play against, as Charlie Carrel is going to have a little issue with Mustapha today.
Yeah, they're playing at the $25,000 high roller event in Dublin this year on the EPT. And it's just a great event, and they're four-handed at this point. And it's important to note, there's two very short stacks, two guys with about 15 blinds each as we start this hand. Not Charlie and not Mustapha, though.
Right. Every decision in this hand is magnified because of those two guys.
Absolutely.
Now, this hand was suggested to us on Twitter by Lucas RFN.
That's right.
If you have a suggestion for the breakdown, tweet it at us, and definitely include a YouTube link, or we're going to get angry.
Yeah, and you don't want to see this dude angry.
I don't really get
It's
angry.
a little uncomfortable and a little awkward, but still, you don't want to see it. Also, this hand was voted on by our patrons on Patreon. If you hit a certain level of giving on Patreon, you get to vote on which hand we break down each and every week, so check that out.
That sounds pretty fun.
If you're interested, it's a pretty great way to support us and the show. That's right up there, that link.
We are going to break this hand down as it goes, so get ready for some analysis.
Yep.
Well, Kanit has raised from the button here, and we, Joe, are going to sweat with Charlie Carrel in the small blind. For the rematch between these two.
Sweat with Charlie Carrel makes sense since it looks like he's on his way to Bikram Yoga.
Ace-King suited in the small blind. He 3-bets to 700k.
Yes, let's 3-bet this clown, and also, namaste.
So with Chance Cornuth folding the big blind, action's back on Kanit.
Well, we already know he doesn't fold to re-raises, and this time he's in position.
That's a call.
Look, thank you, you too.
1.6 million in the middle already. An 8-7-5 two-heart flop. Not ideal for Ace-King of spades.
Yeah, I'm fine with us not continuing.
Charlie checks, Mustapha checks.
Cool.
6 of clubs on the turn.
Well, we've got two giant spades on a mostly red board. I hate this, I hate our hand, I hate this board, and I hate his stupid mustache face.
Charming. Well, Charlie's checked for a second time. Mustapha not checking back this time.
No, of course not.
He bets 550,000.
I actually kind of like a fold here. Oh my god, what's happening in the background? That guy's more machine than man.
Charlie decides to call the bet.
I know we're gonna face a bomb from Mustapha on the river.
Charlie is definitely getting himself in a bit of a tough spot here by calling, but he thinks he probably has to because he has what it looks like he has to Mustapha. He's been playing his hand pretty much face up so far.
Yeah, and you know, that is problematic. I mean, I understand why Charlie's doing it. That flop is terrible for Ace-King of
awful.
spades.
You hate that flop.
I mean, come on.
Obviously, Kanit doesn't love it either.
But we're four-handed even.
Yeah.
At a super high roller, well, a high roller, final table. Can't we just get a flop with an ace in it one time for Charlie?
Yeah, just make it a cooler, let us win. That would be great.
That'd be wonderful, but no, that's not happening here. So instead, Charlie makes a very reasonable check on the flop, and I think Kanit makes a reasonable check back on the flop, although I could really understand why he would bet here too.
Kanit may be thinking on the flop that Charlie's going to check call almost all of his ace highs, and Kanit doesn't really think he has too much fold equity, and therefore there's not really much value in betting the flop. He also has position and can learn a lot about what Charlie does on the turn.
Yeah, especially if he has a sense, and these guys have played together a lot,
yeah.
that Charlie is going to continue to check ace high on the turn on a lot of turns anyway. That maybe is going to help him. At the same point, there is some value in beginning to tell a story right now when you bet the flop. You could bet bigger on the turn and often just win against ace high.
It's so rare that Charlie has an overpair here the way he's played it, even just the flop. Discounting the turn alone, it looks like Charlie would always be betting an overpair, especially considering the stack to pot ratio.
Yeah.
Charlie doesn't have that much left.
Yeah. When Mustapha checks this flop, we also think it sort of eliminates a lot of his heart combinations, even his open-ended stuff, like having a 6 or 9, 10. We just think he's betting that. So now we're just down to not that many hands on the turn that are value. And this is why we think Charlie calls.
Right. So if Kanit had a pair, say he had something like 8-10, something like that, he's very likely to bet that on the flop. He's really likely to bet almost any pair on the flop because it looks a lot like Charlie has ace-king or ace-queen when he checks. So if we eliminate those from his range, Kanit's value range is only 9s and 4s.
There are a lot of 9s.
There are a lot.
There's ace-9, there's king-9, there's queen-9, there's jack-9. Those are all completely reasonable. We think 10-9 he would have bet on the flop because it's open-ended and overs. Just going to go with it. But that's a lot of 9s. And there's some 4s, not as many. There's pocket 4s. There's ace 4 suited. I think there's king 4 suited. He's not so sure.
Not so sure.
There is. But so there's a lot of straights, but then there's just a lot of misses also. Ace 10, king jack, king queen, king 10, jack 10. These are all just straight up misses.
We think Kanit's probably betting all of the lowest end of his range here, which is mostly the Broadway cards like he has, the king jacks, queen jacks, those types of hands. And that's what Carroll's really hoping for. He's, of course, hoping for a cheap showdown, but he's against Mustapha Kanit, and that's not usually going to happen.
Yeah, usually if Kanit has you, he's going to bet on the river, and if he doesn't have you, he's going to bet on the river. So that is one of the problems with calling here, is we put ourselves in this tough situation with these two other short stacks at this four-handed 25K final table, where we're almost always going to have a really tough decision on the river.
Either way, Charlie made the right call for now.
Yep.
Jack on the river. Charlie checks.
Here we go.
2.7 million in the pot. And it bets 950,000. What do you do here with ace king high?
Fold the turn.
Ace high, brother. I have ace high, by the way.
It's high. Okay, I feel better now.
We've pretty much the bottom of our range. Totally cool with a fold here, guy. I mean, unless you're in a hurry to get to the sunset meditation drum circle.
No, hard to say. I needed a heart.
I put you on the heart.
We could very well be good here, but there are just better spots.
Don't waste my time. You're not beating anything with ace high, so
Ding!
no.
King, queen, king 10, queen 10, ace 10, ace queen, ace 2 suited.
You beat something.
Yeah, I do. You look different this time to the time you had
I
tonight.
always look different, you know. I'm schizophrenic.
Really?
Yeah, a little bit.
More mental health jokes. We're gonna get letters.
Come on. You can be outplayed once. This hand, you cannot win it with this run out. Just, right? If he has ace high.
Why do I feel like you have nothing?
I feel like I have something.
I feel like he has something.
Charlie
I
calls.
got you bet the jack.
Ew!
You're so good.
Mustapha Kanit is so good. And partially it's because it's just hard to put that dude on a hand. Charlie Carrel knows that, and he's got a really tough decision now.
Right. That means that Mustafa's going to have a lot of different hands, even though it was 3-bet pre-flop. We know from experience that Mustapha Kanit, once he puts chips in the pot pre-flop, really doesn't like to fold.
Yeah.
He really likes to try to find a way to win the hand. And you can see that by clicking up here,
Yep.
checking out how can this play possibly work, or what is it called?
That's
Something
what
like
it's
that.
called. That's what it's called. You nailed it.
Anyway, the play might work, it might not. Check it out.
Great hand.
It informs Kanit's range, and it's hugely wide.
Yes.
So if we're Charlie Carrel now, we have to break down Mustafa's bets that are bluffs and bets that are value bets and figure out if we're getting the right price to call.
Right, so we did a lot of thinking on this, and we removed some things from Mustafa's bluff range here. So some of the things we removed are all heart combinations, because we figure Mustafa's betting his flush draw almost always on the flop.
Also, open-enders we removed.
Right, like 9-10 and things like that. We also removed some combinations of ace-queen, because we figure some of the time anyway, Mustapha is going to 4-bet and just get it in with ace-queen pre-flop.
Right, so we broke it down into fun little numbers, and it's going to be on a graph on your screen right now.
Yep, so check that out. You can see, though, there's a lot more bluffs than there are value hands, but it's nothing close to the ratio of the price Charlie's getting in this pot.
Right, Charlie's getting 4-1. So if this was a cash game, combinatorially, which we learned is actually
right.
the correct way to say that.
Thank you, YouTube users.
Yeah, I forgot which guy said that, but thank you very much. It's the right time to call. but there is ICM here, which changes a lot. Chance Kornuth is sitting there with not many chips, and Anton Bertelsen has the same thing.
Yeah, they both have about 15 blinds, give or take. So Charlie, if he calls and is wrong, is going to be back in that sort of ghetto type situation with those two guys instead of living, the relatively nice life in like a, 2-bedroom house sort of.
Well, he's no Mustapha Kanit with 20 billion chips or whatever Kanit has.
He's not Bill Gates, but he doesn't have his own island, but he's got like a nice little place to live. He's got like 32 blinds or something. I guess after this he'd have like 25. This is one of the reasons why calling the turn you're going to be in the spot, and here we are.
Yeah, we're in this spot, and as Charlie Carrel, sure, we're getting the right price based on all of that subjective math that we just did, but we're still not sure, and that's why Charlie decides to talk to Mustapha a little bit.
Ace high, by the way. I have ace high, by the way.
Ace high. Okay, I feel better now.
Charlie, by the way, thinks he has a read on Mustapha Kanit. He says it later in an interview.
That said, it seems like he does a lot of talking to Mustapha, but I don't know that he gets a whole lot out of it. Mustapha does a nice job of both strengthening and weakening his range when they're talking, so it's not super clear if there isn't some sort of physical tell that Charlie picks up on. And since we know the outcome of this hand, if he did pick up on a physical tell, it won right.
He was definitely wrong on that one.
Yeah.
And Mustapha seems like he's pretty good at talking at the table. And as the audience, it's obviously really fun to watch him do it because he's just a fun guy to watch talk when he's talking to his opponents. Charlie just got it wrong this time, but mathematically, you can't really kill him for the call, even though it feels like he can't beat anything.
It's a really tough spot. It sucks. It's an argument for folding the turn, so you don't have to be in this spot. But Charlie doesn't have to be right very often for this to be a fantastic call, and so it might just be a fantastic call that didn't work out.
Right. That said, Mustapha played this hand really well. He played a lot of hands really well on his way to actually winning this event, which he clearly deserved based on how well he did everything.
Also got lucky to hit a jack.
Yeah, that was nice too. The 3-outer.
Pretty good. In 30 seconds, we're going to look at our favorite comments from last week's video.
Hey, we mentioned Patreon at the beginning, and if you love the breakdown and you want to support it, Patreon is a great way to do it. You also get some rewards, so click somewhere on the screen, wherever I decide to put that in editing, it's probably going to be over there.
Definitely right
Anyway,
there.
It looks pretty, and you should click it, and you should check out the type of rewards you can get, and you can support the breakdown and be a part of the process. Last week we had a really awesome, fun hand featuring Tom Dwan, where they were playing the 7-deuce game in a heads-up cash game for $10,000, meaning that if Tom were to win with the 7-deuce that he had in his hand, any way he could win, he would win $10,000 extra from Sammy George, his opponent. Tom Dwan pulled some magical strings and did some magical things, and somehow managed to do it by betting over 2 times the pot on the river and kind of crushing Sammy George's soul, and it was awesome. And now, what did the people have to say?
Let's find out.
All right.
That was a nice little
job
you did there with the summary.
That was fun.
All right. Michael Radswilla says, I think some of the post-flop analysis forgets to account for Dwan's polarizing pre-flop raise. I think the pre-flop action removes some of the random combo draw hands, particularly things like Queen 10 off, and especially the random King of Hearts 3x type hands from Dwan's range.
This is a great point, and we got it from a couple people at least.
Yes, at least.
We did have a little bit of an oversight here where we said when Tom Dwan 6x'd it pre-flop, which he did because he had 7-deuce and he just wanted the 10K, he became immediately polarized, and we kind of discounted that later when constructing a range for Tom Dwan by including a lot of King of Hearts X type hands, and this is definitely right on point. We got a little bit mixed up.
I mean, in fairness, Dwan is capable of a lot of things, so he's more likely to have some of those weirder hands even when he 6x's it, but we ourselves said he was polarizing, and then we acted like we didn't say that a little later in the video. You caught us. We were a little contradicting ourselves there. That's a good point.
Our bad.
So, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's a poker hand. All right, Ryan Stecken says, I really don't understand why you put flushes and ace-jack in the value hand category. If you have ace-jack or a flush, except the nut flush, and you bet twice the pot on the river and get called, are you turning your hand over like you have the winner? Probably not. So how can this hand be a value hand? I doubt Tom would shove ace-jack here for value.
I'll give you that ace-jack is at least questionable.
That's the questionable
one. It's possible, but not entirely 100%. But I think flushes are 100% he's going to value shove based on Sammy George checking both the turn and the river.
I mean, Sammy, the only full house Sammy can really reasonably have here is pocket sixes. And it's just not super likely he even has that when he checks turn and river, especially after the check raise on the flop. You figure he's just going to find times where he's going to bet that. That's it, right?
Right.
And also he's going to be betting flushes, so we can bet probably all of our flushes for value as well.
Yeah, we kind of said Sammy shouldn't have ace-3, so that's one full house that he shouldn't have. Pocket aces and pocket jacks, sure, that should be possible, but based on the casual nonchalance with which Sammy called pre-flop, which didn't seem like acting, he probably doesn't have those.
Also, he just called pre-flop. Like, he could 3-bet those.
Easily.
He's going to do that a lot. When they're super deep, especially, he may be more apt to pre-flops.
Right.
Or 3-bet at pre-flop some of the time.
Yeah,
right?
flush is a slam dunk value bet here. Ace-Jack, I'll give you, is questionable, but Dwan is the type of guy who would go for it, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, what are you targeting is the big question with Ace-Jack, right? Because really, it's Ace-6 exactly, and maybe other Ace-Jacks. That's about it.
I mean, you're trying to get Sammy to make a hero call because there's a paired board and a semi-high card with an ace, so Sammy's saying, don't bet me off a chop. That's what you're kind of going for, I guess.
The thing is, Dwan is capable of making really big value bets, both in terms of size of the bet itself he's going to make, but also in terms of the thinness of them.
Right.
So it's big in one way, but thin in the other. You know, long and